All right, Peter, thanks so much for performing on Advocate Sessions today. I really loved the music you performed today.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Airplay, we all live for, we all sing, we all write, we all play live, but, and I know a lot of us live for whatever happens when that stuff gets electronically put out on airwaves to ears and eyeballs somewhere, and so the opportunity is really very appreciated, very much appreciated.
And you mentioned kind of earlier during your performance, obviously you played with Fat.
Yeah,
Still
do actually.
Oh, you still do?
Very active band still.
And did you guys get your start back in the 60s?
Late 60s, 60, 68, 69.
So how long have you been playing music? Most of your life, I would imagine.
Yeah, I started playing, in really kind of when I was a kid, My mother always wanted me to be a priest, so she kept bringing these seminarians and these priests around, and one guy had a guitar, and, it was over, As soon as I saw that, I knew what I wanted to be, and it wasn't a priest. So, I started playing and writing early. So, yeah.
And you told us a little bit about the songs today, and just so many stories connected to these songs. Do a lot of your songs just come out of life experiences?
They really do. Most of them do, and I work a lot with young people now, whenever I can, just because that's one of the best ways to make, I think there's millions of us, that have spent this kind of time in an industry, gotten very close, and it's difficult, it's frustrating and it's painful, and one of the best ways that I've found to make that make sense and not have to all be, for nothing is to share whatever I can with other people, younger people. And one of the first things I tell them is that people that aren't writing, I can really be a badger sometimes and go, "Are you writing?" "No." "Why not?" But one of the first things that I try to convey to them is that every song that you're covering is written by somebody, who was just, most of the time writing about their life. My perfect example of that is that Squeeze tune, Tempted by the Fate of Another, where the first verse is the guy, brushing his teeth and taking a shower, And it's everybody does that, So when I look back now, a lot of mine is tied to the stories in my life. And one of the things that playing music has allowed me is, the chance to meet people, whether they're musicians or people in the business or otherwise, and set that to music.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life musically? I know, obviously, your solo material, and you still play with Fat. But what else are you kind of working on, and different groups or organizations that you're working with?
Right. So musically, just to sort of flesh that out, I've been working with Mark now, what's it been, 20 years. And I have a quintet that I really love called Radio X. And I have a whole, when I play with Fat, we learned early on that people that want to hear that's what they want to hear. Mm-hmm. They want to hear it just the way that it was. But I've continued to write all this time, and I play those songs in Radio X, and then sometimes we'll break it down into a trio or a duo. And I'm getting ready to do a pretty massive. The last record that I made was really a collection of demos that I made when I was in Nashville. It was about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so I'm doing a pretty sprawling, intense, starting on a recording project that's going to sort of embrace or, connect to all, the studios, some of the studios here, some of the studios I've played with, the musicians that I've worked with, and songs. And one of the things that happens when you write, at a considerable rate is that, you're a songwriter, you're a singer, you're a performer, you're a recording artist, and you can, the first three you can kind of do. You know, you're having a barbecue, I'll sing. Washing your car, I'll come over and sing. Okay, you know, but the recording part is really difficult because it's expensive. You know, and I think that most of us get to a certain point where, you know, you forget about all the big money that you used to dream of. Some of us used to dream when you were a kid. You just want the opportunity, the facilities, the resources to record this stuff. And if you don't, and years go by, and tens and dozens of songs go by, then they get lost. So I'm reaching back to some songs that I always wanted to record from the very beginning. I'm doing some. I feel like I'm writing well now, and I'm writing that. So it's going to be a pretty sprawling event, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm in the planning stages now.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, this is music that you wrote like 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
you're going back to that and exploring that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I'm doing that since I came back here is I came up in an idyllic time here in Western Massachusetts and in the Valley, as we call it. In the late 60s, early 70s, the music scene was exploding here, and there was a lot of work in the clubs. We were part of, we came out of the tail end of a real heavy-duty, extended top 40 cover sort of regime that bands were playing in. We wanted to write early, and we began to write early, and we were excluded from the work because we didn't do a lot of covers. And so we began to just look around for places that we could go in and play and put some money at the door. And in a very short period of time, the entire scene here had changed from cover bands to original bands. I remember I was at a thing that I did with David Sokol. He had some advocates from the 70s. There were like 30 clubs around here. Everybody had, you know, original bands, 4 or 5 nights, you know, 3 or 4 nights a week, and you went and you paid, and that's one of the things that you did. You know, and it didn't matter. You went, we'll go to the Red Pantry. They always have good bands, or we'll go to the Nail, or we'll go to, you know, wherever, Raharas or whatever that was. But it was a thing that you did, like it is in Austin, like it is in Athens, Georgia, like it is in Seattle, like it is in Nashville. And I'd love to help, and I'm trying to recreate that, you know, that ecosystem. And let me just be clear about one thing. I don't have to recreate the creativity. It's here. The musicians, the bands that are here, whether they're musicians like us that have continued to play for decades, whether it's young people, you know, doing all kind of creative, you know, and new things. The depth of talent here and the you know, the amount of it is staggering, and it really warrants this place being a musical center. What needs to happen is that we need to awaken the audience, the public, the marketplace to what they have here, and try to rebuild an economic system, an ecosystem where people can actually, where the public is aware that this resource is here, this value is here, and it's not that they're ignorant. It's just that they got out of the practice of doing this, and to try to get that back so that we can build a business model and a revenue stream so that people, whoever they are, can begin to play music and make money. I mean, back in the 70s, you know, my band could pull down, you know, $3,000 a week. You know what I mean? And support. And we lived in a house. We paid the rent, and we played music all day long. So, you know what? And I've found some great people to do that with. Mark Sherry has been running the Valley Music Showcase, and he's put together an organization called the New Music Alliance. With Paul Stickett and Lisa Martin, put together an organization called the Western Massachusetts Songwriters Collaborative, just to try to find platforms where people can begin to connect. And you know, because the whole thing is here. The studios are here. You know, there's 5 or 6 really great studios. This should be a destination musical place, and I really think it's beginning to happen. And so that's the other thing that I'm really engaged in.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Sure.
And thanks again for the performance. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter.
Am I done talking now?